Hello friends, Tattooed Biker here. And tonight we're going to dive into the strange and fascinating phenomena of glitches in the Matrix. If you're not familiar with this concept, it refers to moments when reality seems to break down and behave in ways that defy explanation. Here tonight I'm going to share two true personal stories that will leave you questioning the nature of reality itself. This first story was submitted by Tracey. I'd like to preface this by saying my husband is an electrical engineer and I'm a teacher. We're not crazy people. So back when my husband and I were dating, my husband was in this terrible car crash. His truck hit black ice and he slid into oncoming traffic. His truck was completely totaled. So was the other truck he hit. The weird thing, though, both he and the other guy were completely fine. Not a scratch on them. All my husband had was a bruise on his knee. The first responders were baffled, as was the towing company and insurance, when they realized that no one had died or had been severely injured. Fast forward to a few days after the crash, my husband comes over to my apartment. We're having a conversation about a university class we're both in, and he casually asked when I got the flat-screen TV sitting on my dresser. At this point, I'm very confused because I've had that little flat screen since I was 13, and I'd had it the entire year and a bit we'd been dating. I asked him what he's talking about, as I've always had that TV. He told me to quit pulling his leg and asked me what I did with the old tube TV. I had no idea what he was talking about, and I told him so. He's convinced I had a tube TV. I proceeded to get on Facebook and showed him a picture we had taken 2 weeks prior with the TV in the background. It's a flat screen in the picture. My husband goes white like he's seen a ghost and just stares into space for a minute. His eyes started to water, and I asked him what's wrong, and he said, "I swear to God I'm not crazy. You've had a tube TV since we started dating. It was a tube TV when we took that picture." I brushed it off as his head being rattled from the accident, and he didn't bring it up again. However, any time we hung out in my room, he'd always look at the TV weird. Fast forward about 7 years. My husband and I have been married for a few years and decide that we're ready to be parents. I'm not on birth control, and we decide that whatever happens, happens. We're not actively trying, but not preventing it either. So we're on vacation in Italy, wandering around Rome, and I start feeling really bad. I had my period the week before, and it was the worst one I'd had in my entire life. As we're walking around, I'm suffering from back pain, chills, and horrific cramping. I go to the bathroom in the cafe and hurl my guts out. And then I realize I'm menstruating, heavily. Obviously, I'm weirded out since I just had my period the week before. I clean myself up and go back to my husband and tell him that I think I need a doctor. I have a pretty high pain tolerance, but this is insane. It's getting to the point I'm having trouble walking, and I'm starting to feel pain in my shoulders. I don't want to ruin our vacation, but I'm starting to really worry. My husband is smarter than me and sees the state I'm in and says I'm visibly paler than when I went into the bathroom and gets me help. 20 minutes later, I'm on a stretcher and being taken to the hospital. An hour after that, I'm being prepped for emergency surgery. The doctor tells me I have a ruptured ectopic pregnancy. I have heavy internal bleeding, and if he doesn't perform surgery, I'm going to die. 6 hours later, I wake up very sore and tired. The doctor tells me I'm very lucky, and if I had waited any longer to seek medical attention, I'd have died. My husband stays with me in the hospital the first night and then gets a hotel for the rest of my stay. A week later, we're cleared to fly home, and I go through a grueling month of healing from the surgery. 2 months after our return, somehow my husband and I get on the topic of fires, and he goes on about the dangers of kitchen fires. And I say, no need to worry. We're all set with the extinguisher in the closet. He looks at me like I have 3 heads and asks me what I'm talking about. I remind him about the extinguisher in the front closet where we keep the coats. We've had it for 3 years. He insisted we buy one when we bought our house. My husband shakes his head and tells me he has no idea what I'm talking about and that we don't have a fire extinguisher. I remind him about not only my memories of fighting about, if we really needed one, where to put it, buying it from Home Depot, but also installing it to the wall in the closet. He looks at me with confusion and tells me none of that happened. I get up, go to the front closet to show him, the whole while cursing him for being an asshole and forgetting our 2-week fight about it. And lo and behold, no extinguisher. Not only is there no extinguisher, there's no holes in the wall where I know we installed it. No fresh paint. This wall has never been touched. I insist he's moved it and fixed the wall and ask why he had played such a stupid prank. He continues to insist we've never had one, let alone talked about getting one. This goes on for several minutes. I'm approaching hysterics, telling him to quit playing with me when finally he says, now you know how I feel about that TV. We didn't speak about it for a long time. Then one day he brought up this theory that perhaps in another timeline or dimension, whatever you want to call it, we both actually died and we reset like a video game. And the TV and the extinguisher are just glitches. I don't know if I agree with him. All I know is that I've never been so rattled in my whole life, and every time I get something out of the closet, I'm just overwhelmed with this feeling of wrongness. I know it should be there, but somehow it's just not. I can't explain it. He says he'll go to his grave, swearing I had a tube TV. This next story is submitted by Jose A. When I was in my 20s, I kept having dreams about a woman with long black hair named Aurora. They were different dreams, but for some reason her distinct face and name always ended up in them. It got to the point where I would wake up frustrated and confused, trying to Google her name or find out how I was connected to her. After a few months, she stopped showing up and I dismissed it, thinking my brain was just shorting out or something. Fast forward to a few years later, to Halloween of 2009 to be exact. I'm in the car with a friend, stopped at a gas station. I'm about to pull out and merge onto a highway when I get a phone call from a random number. So I stopped the car, but no one answered. There was a person behind me who grew impatient, honked at me, and then swerved by me instead of waiting for 2 seconds for me to move. The second they hit the highway, some silver Civic loses control and T-bones the car that swerved in front of me. I called the cops and waited at the gas station for them to come. Turns out both drivers died. It 100% would have been me if I hadn't got that call. So I called it back a few hours later, out of gratitude and curiosity. It rang 3 times and went to voicemail.
Hi, you've reached Aurora. Sorry I can't get to the phone right now, but if you leave your name, number, and a brief message, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks.
And I swear I've never had goosebumps like that my entire life. I called it again the next day because I was still confused about the whole situation. Some woman answers and we get to talking. I tell her my entire story, including the dreams I had. She tells me she doesn't know how I got her number and that she never called me, as far as she remembers. Weird. I asked her if she has a Facebook, so I could friend her. She said sure and sent me the link via text. When I pulled up her page and saw her profile pic, my blood ran cold. It was the girl that I'd been dreaming about years before. If that's not a glitch in the Matrix, then I'm just crazy. And there it is. That's all I have for tonight. Thanks for watching today's video on the strange and unsettling world of glitches in the Matrix. If you've had a similar experience, be sure to share it with us in the comments below. If you enjoyed the content, take a moment to like the video and consider subscribing. It's completely free and it really helps out the channel. So thanks again, take care, and I'll see you next time. Biker out.